Yeah, a little bit, please.
Can you confirm if you have it now?
Yes, yes. I'm saying if you can hear me, please type yes on the chat, and I have not seen any. Let me assume that people can hear me. So I'm starting now to share my Jupyter notebook.
I'm saying, can you confirm if you have received mine now?
Yeah, if it has just submitted on your side, it is just here because right now I'm on the Jupyter notebook. I can't maneuver to go on the other side.
Okay, no problem.
Yes. If it has confirmed that it has submitted on your side, I'll just have it. Has it confirmed?
Yes.
Yeah, that one I'll have it. Okay, thank you a lot. I'm about to share my Jupyter notebook. Let me open it first, please. Allow me to open it. Yes, I've gotten it. Please be patient a bit. Thank you a lot, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can now see my screen, and I'll expect to move with you, because if you can't see the screen, it will be impossible. I'll be teaching myself. So let me also open the slides, please. Yeah, I hope you are in a position to see both my Jupyter notebook and my slide. So today we'll be covering almost the last part of this chapter. It will be the last part of this chapter, where now we will talk about the input function. And in this input function, we will explore how to enter a float, integer, string. And now when you want to enter either float, your program, if you want your program to accept either float, integer, or a string, what are you supposed to write? So that is where now we will cover about a function known as an eval function. So we'll start with a user input. You have to know what is just a user input in Python programming, and how you should command that user input. As we normally go, I will use very little time in the slides, and then a lot of time will be taken now uh, by the lab. And when I say by the lab, it means the Jupyter Notebook. So in this chapter, I posted yesterday that if you have some quadratic equations, you can come, you are supposed to come here with it, so that among the examples, I will show you within the math library in Python programming, how it can compute those quadratic equations, differential equations, but in this case, I'll just show the quadratic equations. Now I'll start with the user input. The first thing I'll say is the print function enable a Python to display textual information to the user. So as I've been telling you from the beginning, the print function will enable Python program just to display textual information to the user. Now, program may use input function to obtain information from the user. So when you want to obtain information from the user, you have to use now the input function. This input function is normally used when you want to obtain information from the user. And we will see how we will control these input functions. The simplest use of input functions assign a string to a variable. So a string, as I have been telling you, uh, for example, our name of a place, that is what we call a string data type in Python. And when you are doing that project, there is a question which I asked about data information. Data information will just enable you to get the data type, if it is a string, an integer, a float, or a float. And it will also give you the number of columns and what have you. And I wish to commend most of you. You have done that project exemplary. From what I've marked, yeah, the last person has got 18 and the highest person has got 19. That means you are grasping the content. During your free time, you need to have a serious factorial clap for yourselves. Now we will start with an eval function. And what I will start explaining is what is this eval function. An eval function, this is where now an input will accept float, integer, float, integer, or a string data type. This is where, when you use an eval function, this is where an input function will accept either float, integer, or a string data type. Example of a float. I will give you the first example of a float. And this first example, I'm making a program which will be able to calculate the area of a rectangle. How will it be able to calculate the area of a rectangle? The first thing which you will expect from the user, let me put on my electricity, please. Yeah, the first thing which we'll expect from the user, the program asks to ask you to enter length, because we all know for us to calculate area of a rectangle, it is length times width. So what you must instruct your program first to do is to print. And what are you expecting to get from the user? You are expecting length. So I'm telling my program, enter length. Then in this length, the second thing, I have now to enter the value of this length. That is why I'm saying length is equals to evil. Why am I saying evil? As I've told you earlier, evil function in Python programming enables a program either to accept a string, an int, or a string, an int, or a float. So this means this program will accept those three data types. Then I will request again from the user, print. You see now the second print, it is print enter width. This means the program is requesting from the user to enter width. And after it has entered the width, I'll say again, width is equals to eval. Why am I saying width is equals to eval? Because I want it to take into consideration either string, float, or an int. Then now, the next procedure now is for me to define the formula of calculating area of a rectangle in Python programming. I will tell Python that area is equals to length times width. And I told you how multiplication sign is normally written in Python. It is that star. That is why you see here, it is area is equals to length times width. After doing that, I will request now Python to print the area, which I've been telling you from the time immemorial, that now when I say print, the one which is in the quotation mark, it is just the wording which I want Python to display when it will give the results. So I will say print the area is, then you see I'm writing this area. What do I mean? This, I'm expecting now Python to call the value of this area, so that when I will run, it will give me the area. So for example, when I run this program, you see it has asked me to enter length. For example, if I enter 75, 75 is an int, Python will accept. So when I press enter, it will ask me again to enter width. And in this case, I'm entering width 98. So when I will press enter, it will give me the area of this rectangle as 7350. The second way, I want to enter a float value. And as I've been telling you, a float value is the one which has got decimal point. So I tell Python enter 78.0. You see, Python will accept. And then the second, tell it 67. Tell it enter 67, maybe 0.5. It also accepts, and it computes, and it gives me the answer. So I'm telling you that eval function will enable the user to enter either any data type. But just see the difference when I will change here and put float. I put float. That means I'm expecting now the program to enter float numbers. Whenever I will enter anything which doesn't have decimal point, the program will throw for me an error. For example, I enter a number such as 56. When I press enter, I don't know why it doesn't throw an error, but I expected it to throw an error. Then 57. No, let me try with an int. Let me try with an int. I wanted to throw an error. So for example, I put the int I put there int, and now I run this program. When I run this program, I enter a number such as 67.7. When I will run, Python will throw for me an error. Why is it throwing for me an error? This is because Python had expected me to enter an integer. But instead of entering an integer, I entered a float. So it threw an error. If I could have entered an integer such as 67, it could have run. But instead of me entering an integer, I entered a float. For example, if I enter 78.0, it will throw for me an error because Python is expecting integer. So for you to avoid that, when you are making a program, we normally use an eval function. So this eval function, it will accept any data type. It will accept any data type. So whenever you enter an int or you enter a float, it will just accept. For example, this way and that way, it will accept. The other example is down here. The other example of eval function is down here. For example, you want to make a program, and this program can accept uh, uh, various data type. You see, I've given that program a variable x1. And after I've given it a variable x1, I tell this program, I assign it to eval, that then I input. And I told you by inputting is to request a value from the user. Then now I'm calling this variable. And how am I calling it? I'm calling it by using an inbuilt print function. So I say x1 is equals to x1. So I will expect now when it will display the results. For example, if I have entered x1 is 8, it will display for me x1 is equals to 8. Then you see here, I want to know the data type. That is why now I'm writing this type under within the quotation mark. Then I want to get the type of that data which I have entered. So it will automatically compute for me and it will tell me this value is an int. So for example, if I run this cell, you see it has asked me, it has given me a bar. So that means it wants me now to run. It wants me to, not to run, it wants me now to enter those values. For example, if I decide to enter 8 and I press enter, you see it will tell me x is equals to 8 and type is equal type class int. That means this 8 is an integer. As I have told you earlier, an eval function will enable you to enter both for a string, float, and int. So in this case, we have entered int. Now in the second case, maybe you want to enter now a float, and you write a number such as 8.0. So when you will enter, you will see it will write now for you 8.0, and it is under class type float. Then the third thing, maybe you want to enter a string, and I've decided this string, I want to enter my name. I can decide and just write there Levi that way. And when I will press enter, it will give me x3 is equals to Levi, and the data type is a string. Then maybe the fourth thing, I want to enter maybe another string. I can come here and write 8.0, and I told you an integer or a float, when written within asterisks, it becomes a string. So when I run, it will tell me x4 is equals to 8, and it is type string. Then the last one, maybe I decide to enter another float, say 8.9. So when I will enter, it will compute, and it will tell me 8.9 is a float. It will tell me x5 is equals to 8.9, which is a float. So in short, what I want you to get right is that eval function, when you use eval function, that means you don't need to specify that if it is an int, float, or a string. An eval function takes care of any data type, be it a string, a float, or an integer. The other thing, maybe you want to make a program, and this program, you want to make a program which will be able to compute the sum of two numbers. This is how we do it in Python programming by using eval function. You will define that number, maybe numerical 1 and numerical 2. After defining, you see I've said numerical 1, comma, numerical 2 is equals to eval. So this means the number which I have defined, I've given it freedom. It can either be of those three data types. It can be a string, it can be an integer, or it can be a float. Then after that, I put a bracket. Then I use an input function. And as I've told you, an input function is used now to request information from the user. This means from the user. This means I'm going to request some information from the user. And then you can write now anything that you want. For example, in my case, I decided to request from the user, please enter number 1 and number 2. And then you close those brackets. So, and then I told you the print function is used to display the textual information on the screen. So if I want the information to be displayed, I will use now print function. Now, when I will run this and I enter two numbers, such as 67, and those numbers must be separated by a comma, and 78. When I will press enter, this program, it will just compute for me automatically that 67 plus 78 is equals to 145. Then I told you, because I've used eval function, it can also accept float. I can decide to say 98.7, then comma 97.6. When I press enter, it will just compute, and it will tell me now the response is 196.3. So what you need to put into consideration is how eval function is used. Then the other thing here, the other example, you can use eval function when you want only to enter one variable at a time. For example, here I'm saying print eval. That means now this program will accept either an int, string, or a float. So when I will run this program, it will ask me it will give me that bar. And I decide maybe I write there my name. Write there my name this way. When I will press enter, it will display my name. Now, this time round, I want to give the program another thing. I run that bar, and maybe I enter 67. It will give me 67. Or maybe I want to enter now a float. I will enter a float value such as 78.9. When I press enter, it will give me 78.9. So this code there, it will only allow you to enter one variable at a time. And you see I've included an eval function. When I've included this eval function, as you have observed, it has accepted both int, float, and a string. So that is all about eval function. So we will go to the next thing now. We'll go to maybe when you are we want now to use an int. We have covered eval, and that was the first example was here. Now we want to go where now we use an int together with input. In the first case, you saw we used eval, and I've given you different examples of eval. But now we want to focus where now we are only using an int. Now in this case, we want to calculate the perimeter of a rectangle. And you all know the formula of calculating the perimeter of a rectangle is length times width, then you multiply by 2. So these are the steps of how you can write such a program. You see, we have started with the print, and we said enter length. And as I've been telling you, print function is used just to display textual information to the user. So this means what I'm requesting from the user is length. And then after that, I will need length. How will I now need length? That is when now you see I've written length is equals to int. That the length which I will need, it should be in integer form, not any other form. So that's why you see length is equals to int. Then now input, I'm requesting the user now to give me now the value. So you will start with the print. It will display that you want to enter length. Then length is equals to int, then input. That means now you are requesting length from the user. Then you will just do this, the same procedure for the width. And then you will display the formula for calculating perimeter. You will say perimeter is equals to 2 multiplied by, then in bracket, length times width. Then you want these results to be displayed. How will it be displayed? That is where now you will use the print function. You will say now print the area is. You want to show now, it is the same way procedure we normally do it in mathematics. You want to show your procedure one step after the other. You will say now print the area is. I was supposed to write here, sorry, I was supposed to write the perimeter. Let me just change perimeter. The perimeter is. Then you put that comma and write another perimeter. That means you are calling this perimeter to be displayed by the print function. So when I will run, you will see now the program will request me to enter length. And since this length is in integer, I will have to enter in an integer form. If I try to enter it in any other form, such as 78.8, you see the program will throw for me an error. Why is it throwing for me an error? I started by defining length is equals to int, then input. So the program is expecting an integer. So I will have to run it again and enter an integer that way. Then it will ask me for width. I enter a width such as 89. The program will compute by itself and it will give me the perimeter is 330. What if now you want to do the same thing, but now the program, you want to use now the float value? You will come and follow the same procedure, but where we add integer, you change it to a float. Where you add integer, you change it to a float. So when I run this, the program will expect me to enter a float. When I will enter an int, and I don't know, it was supposed to give me an error, but I will research on that. So this, I think the program is supposed to give you, is expecting you to enter a decimal point number, for example, 98.8. So the program will just compute, and it will find the area. Why was I confusing? The perimeter. This is perimeter. It will find the perimeter for you. So for example, when I enter 78.5, then I enter 78.9, the program will compute, and it will find the perimeter for you. The other thing, you can decide now to calculate the area of a square. And for you to be able to do this, you have to use either print and input function. So you'll start by saying print enter length. That will enable you to display to the user that you want length. Then the second thing is now you have to define in which way do you want this length to appear. In this case, you want it to be an int. So if you want it to be an int, you say int, then input. This input is an inbuilt function in Python that will prompt Python that the programmer wants an integer from the user. So when you will run, you will see it will ask you now the other thing is area. You know now you have given this program length, and you know for you to get the area of a square is length squared. And I taught you how to look for square in Python. That is when now you write length, then that multiplication sign, which is star in Python, you write it twice, where star star 2. That means now that is length squared. Then you will expect it to print the area. You will expect it to print the area. When it will print you will expect it to print the area. So when you enter, for example, 9, and you press enter, Python will require it based on the code you have fed this program, and you will get the area is 81. What about you want to get the circumference of a circle? About you want to get the circumference of a circle. And you see here I'm starting by hashtag, then circumference of a circle. There is one person when she was doing the project, she was following all these rules. This is what we call comments. This is what we call comments. When you want to put a comment in your code, when you are programming, you have to start with an hashtag. When you start with that hashtag, Python will know that is not part of the code, but the programmer is just guiding other users what he or she is doing. So I'll come here and say pi, you know pi, which is 22/7 from our primary mathematics. Pi is equals to 3.14159. Then I will display, I will expect Python to display enter radius, because for you to find the circumference of a circle, you need to know the radius. Then I will define this radius. I want this radius to appear in an integer form. So this is where now you will see I say radius is equals to int, then input. This input, as I've been telling you, it requests the user that I want a certain value. Then I will print enter pi. This means now I will expect Python to display to the user that it is requesting pi. Then I say pi is equals to, you see this pi is a float number. So you will have to start by float. Why am I saying it's a float number? Because it has decimal point. So you'll have to start by float and then say input. Then you enter now the formula of calculating circumference. Formula of calculating circumference is 2 pi r. That is why you see me I've written 2 multiply by pi multiply by radius. Then I will expect now Python to display this circumference. How will it display? I will call the print function for it to display the circumference. So when I will run, you see Python is expecting me to enter radius. I enter a radius such as 14 and I press enter. Python is expecting me to enter pi, and I enter pi such as 3.14159 that way. Then I press enter. Python will just compute for me automatically, and it gets for me the circumference of this circle. The same thing when you want to get the area of the circle. You just know how you should play with this thing. How you should play with this thing. You will just use the same approach. So when I will send to you this Jupyter notebook, I will want you to practice on the area of a circle using both the method in cell 6 and cell 7. That is just a program for calculating the area of a circle. Then the other thing is just an introductory to loop. For example, you are given such a program. That means you are looping, and we will cover looping in details, I think in chapter 6 or 7. That is where we'll cover loop in details. So, for example, you are given for CH in Apple. So this program, what does it mean? For CH in Apple. So there is what we call loop and Boolean expressions in Python. So you see in the second line, when you have started with a loop, there is what we call indentation in Python programming. For example, the first line, we normally say it is a condition. So when you start with a condition in Python programming, the second line must be indented. It must be intended. For example, I've said for CH in Apple, you see it has ended with full colon. Anything which starts with for, if, while in Python programming or any other programming language, just know those are what we call Boolean expressions. And when something starts with for, it means it is a condition. So that is why you see, after writing that condition, it must be intended. So I've written for CH in Apple, if CH, that is where I want you to concentrate. If CH, you see I've written here exclamation mark, then is equals to. What does it mean? In Python programming, when you get a symbol starting with exclamation mark, then is equals to, that means if CH is not equal to. If CH is not equal to. So I'm saying for CH in Apple, then I'm coming here, I'm indenting my code. I'm saying if CH is not equal to P, this P is within Apple, and CH is not equal to E. So those are conditions. So if CH is not equal to P and CH is not equal to E, Python expects you the second thing to follow is a block. And a block is now you are giving Python what it should execute. So for me, I'm saying if CH is not equal to P and CH is not equal to E, I'm expecting Python to continue. Then I'll say now print CH. So I want Python to give me the value of this CH. And you see I'm writing it end is equals to those quotation mark. What am I saying? Below there, we will see different ways of controlling the print function. So by using end is equals to, that is one way of controlling this print function. Or you can just decide by writing print ch, that is a default form. So when I will run, Python will tell me now, according to the condition which I've given my program, the value of ch is e. Now, this is the bit which I wanted you to come with a quadratic equation. I've used an input function to calculate a quadratic equation. And Python is a very friendly language. Each and every sector has got its package. So for you to calculate, yes?
I have a question.
Yes.
In the code for loops up there.
Yes.
What are we checking for? Are we checking if the CH is in that word apple, or what are we looking for?
Yes, we are checking if this CH is in that word apple.
And the E, why hasn't it output P?
Yes.
Why hasn't it output P and it has output E instead?
Why hasn't it output P and it has output E?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. For CH in apple, if CH is not equal to P and CH is not equal to E, continue, then print CH. Let me try this first. I don't know why it is outputting, because in this I've changed it to if CH is equals to P and CH is equals to E, continue, and it still outputs E. Let me change it to this. I see again.
Did you teach us about the and the or operator?
Yes.
Did you teach us about the and the or operator?
No, I said this one it just appeared in chapter 2, but it is in detail. Those things which you are asking, it is in detail in chapter 6.
Because I thought maybe if it's and, it usually
Yes.
returns if a statement is true, one of it is true.
Yeah, true. So I'll just research on it. Why? Because it must give one of it must be true.
Okay.
The way you are raising. Okay, I'll just research on it. That is cell 22. Okay, research on it. Now, this is now the quadratic equations, and in the quadratic equations.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Yes.
Excuse me. Please write your questions on the chat. Don't interfere with the instructor, please. There will be a time for questions, and I am monitoring the chat. Please don't interfere with him. Kindly.
It's very important. It's very important for the class on just that area where the other lady trainee has asked. Because if CH is not equal to P, and at the same time CH is not equal to E, therefore I think that the output should be different. It cannot be either of the two. Because the condition was CH is not equal to P and also is not equal to E. Therefore, we expect an output to be maybe null. It should be like nothing because it's not in the condition that is prescribed above.
Yeah, even me,